Well, the political landscape has changed in America after the attempted assassination of former President Donald Trump on Saturday night. And while millions of people in the US and right around the world are still processing the shock and the hurt from what happened yesterday, which was an attack on democracy, Donald Trump appears to be emerging from this stronger than ever. He's touched down in Milwaukee ahead of the Republican National Convention, and he's shared this message on Truth Social. We will fear not, but instead remain resilient in our faith and defiant in the face of wickedness. This is a man who just survived an assassination attempt, with a bullet coming within millimetres of going through his brain. Donald Trump said he was going to reschedule the convention after what happened, understandably, but he's decided he couldn't allow a shooter to change the scheduling. Whether you like him or not, there is no question Donald Trump is a brave, strong and fierce leader, and he's right now giving Americans hope, which is what the country desperately needs. So at this point in time, the attack is still raw. Many of us are breathing a sigh of relief and just expressing deep gratitude that he survived this. But the country is also mourning the death of an innocent father. Corey was a volunteer firefighter, and he's being remembered as a hero who died while shielding his daughters from bullets.
He leapt on his family members as the gunshots rang out to protect them, and in that was hit. He was the one we believe was attended to by that emergency physician whose video we were playing yesterday describing the horrific injuries he sustained. We also have the names of the two other victims released by Pennsylvania police, David Dutch of New Kensington, Pennsylvania, and James Koppenhaver of Moon Township, Pennsylvania.
I should also add, Donald Trump said our love goes out to the other victims and their families. We pray for the recovery of those who were wounded and hold in our hearts the memory of the citizen who was so horribly killed. Now, there is so much to unpack and a lot of questions we urgently need answers to. Let's start with what we know about the shooter at this point in time. The FBI says 20-year-old Thomas Matthew Crooks acted alone when he tried to take out the president.
The 20-year-old graduated from high school just 2 years ago, and we've confirmed he worked as a dietary aide at a local skilled nursing and rehabilitation center. A spokesperson telling us his background check was clean and that cleared him to work. And while we don't have a clear view of the shooter's home, we know from our law enforcement sources bomb-making materials were found inside and IEDs were found in his car. Investigators still, though, are trying to get inside and get access to the shooter's phone. Finding a motive is top of mind at this point.
We will bring you any developments on this. Look, while we also appreciate those who bravely served yesterday, the pressure and scrutiny is well and truly on the Secret Service because they failed yesterday. They failed to keep a presidential candidate safe.
The scene of the crime viewed from above a farm showground in Pennsylvania. This is where Donald Trump was speaking, the area in red in front of him where his audience was gathered. There were two sniper teams stationed on the roofs of the buildings behind the former president, one at either end. Somehow a gunman had managed to reach the roof of another building, only around 130 metres away from his target.
It just doesn't make a lot of sense that the Secret Service, who are in charge of the security for these type of political events, and because you have a former president there, didn't clear the building hours before. And even if they didn't clear the building in that period of time, why wasn't there some kind of aerial observation capability?
There's a whole lot of interviewing to be done. There's a whole lot of forensic data, to your point, to be done.
We cannot afford to have this happen again, whether it be Donald Trump or any other leader. Now, we have heard from President Joe Biden condemning the violence while also referencing the rhetoric in the US. Here he is.
There's no place in America for this kind of violence, for any violence ever. Period. No exceptions. We can't allow this violence to be normalized. You know, the political record in this country has gotten very heated. It's time to cool it down. We all have a responsibility to do that. Yes, we have deeply felt strong disagreements. The stakes in this election are enormously high.
Joe Biden is right. Of course, violence is never the answer, and America desperately needs unity. But it is hard to listen to those words from Joe Biden when just days ago he said it's time to put Trump in a bullseye. He was, of course, speaking metaphorically, But let's look at some of the other messages that he's been pushing time and time again in this election campaign. It includes Donald Trump is a dictator. Donald Trump is a threat to democracy.
And I mean this from the bottom of my heart. Trump is a threat to this nation. But Trump is even more dangerous now. No, I'm serious. He's unhinged. He's snapped. America needs to wake up and realize that Trump and his mega republic is what they're trying to do. We're going to join them. We're going to engage them, and we're going to stop them.
So listening to Joe Biden today, forgive me if I think it's a little hypocritical. Jesse Waters rightly put it on Fox News today, the ugliness starts at the top. Now, yesterday I shared a clip of the left repeatedly calling for violence, and I called out CNN for its appalling coverage of the shooting. You'd think today, one day after the former president was nearly shot dead, left-wing media outlets would just give it a moment. Sadly, that is not the case. Just look at what the New York Times published about Donald Trump today. It reads, "He failed the tests of leadership and betrayed America. Voters must reject him in November." Not a lot of empathy for one of the most influential leaders in history who was almost shot dead. I tell you what, we need truth tellers more than ever right now, and it doesn't look like you're going to find them at CNN or the New York Times. Finally, as Americans continue to pray for Donald Trump, they are also praying for his family. Donald Trump's 18-year-old son, Barron, watched his father get shot yesterday, and so did Melania. This is what the former First Lady had to say. "When I watched that violent bullet strike my husband, Donald, I realised my life and Barron's life were on the brink of devastating change. I'm grateful to the brave Secret Service agents and law enforcement officials who risked their own lives to protect my husband. To the families of the innocent victims who are now suffering from this heinous act, I humbly offer my sincerest sympathy. Let us not forget that differing opinions, policy, and political games are inferior to love. We are all humans, and fundamentally, instinctively, we want to help one another. American politics are only one vehicle that can uplift our communities. Love, compassion, kindness, and empathy are necessities. And let us remember that when the time comes to look beyond the left and right, beyond the red and the blue, we all come from families with the passion to fight for a better life together, where we are here in this earthly realm. Dawn is here again. Let us reunite now. This morning, ascend above the hate, the vitriol, and the simple-minded ideas that ignite violence. We all want a world where respect is paramount, family is first, and love transcends. We can realise this world again. Each of us must demand to get it back. We must insist that respect feels the cornerstone of our relationships again. I'm thinking of you, my fellow Americans. The winds of change have arrived. For those of you who cry in support, I thank you. I commend those of you who have reached out beyond the political divide. Thank you for remembering that every single politician is a man or a woman with a loving family." How beautifully put. Tomorrow, when Donald Trump takes to the stage at the Republican National Convention, I suspect we're going to see a lot of support and a lot of love.